Howdy, everybody. Welcome to week 6. Ask Me Anything live stream. I'm Bob Harris, senior editor of FootballDiehards.com. Here to entertain your questions and talk through some of the answers and try and help you get some clarity in your own minds if that's what you're after. Week 6, hopefully you're all 5-0 heading into this one. I am not in all my leagues. I have some where I'm desperately scrambling to work my way back. Hello, everybody. Hello, Wintermute. Hello, Andrea. Hello, Remy. Thanks, everyone, for coming. We'll give it a few minutes. Quick news updates before we get the festivities rolling. Cam Akers. There's weirdness going on in Los Angeles. Cam Akers has been ruled out for this game. Sounds like a breakup is imminent if you read the comments. Articles up on FootballDiehards.com. As always, lots of content going up on FootballDiehards.com, including all our DFS content right now with John Lobb, the Scholars sheet of DraftKings knowledge, my DFS tournament 3 and out. Justin Lunero's digging in the DF crates. Jamie Calandro has a couple different articles out, by the way, his best cash game plays and best GPP stacks. And tonight, the DFS lineup show with Jamie and Eric Romoff will be on, so be ready for that. Hello, Alejandro. Thanks for coming. Well, thanks, everyone, for coming again. I'll get to the questions here in a minute. As you do the questions, as Steve Lindor is doing, if you want an example, give me a first initial at least with the last name, and if you can, who they're playing, just to help me process the information a little faster as the questions start hitting me fast and furious. I like to answer fast and furious, so I would appreciate some assistance with the questions, if you would not mind. Thank you in advance. Back to the new stuff. The Cam Akers thing seems really odd. Look, the Rams can't run the football. They can't block. Ask Matt Stafford. He'll tell you this. He can confirm. So this is going to be an interesting situation. See how it plays out this week. Darrell Henderson Jr. seems like a fine play. Malcolm Brown will get some run as well. So at some point, Kieran Williams will be also in the mix too. So we'll have to watch that. Some other things we're looking at. Jonathan Taylor is questionable for this game. Seems likely to play. So does Nyheim Hines. Seems likely to go. By the way, back to the Rams. Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee both listed as questionable. Expect them to play. James Conner has been ruled out for this game. T. Higgins, pretty dicey at this one. Kyle Pitts seems likely to play. The injuries on the Miami Dolphins, aside from the quarterbacks, both of whom were cleared, Tua Tagovailoa and Teddy Bridgewater, both cleared from the concussion protocol. Tua will be back as the starter next week in primetime, peoples. And Teddy Bridgewater will back up Skylar Thompson in this one. So got that. T. Higgins, as I mentioned, questionable. Only played 10 snaps last week. Was kind of a little fakery there. For the Saints, the same situation as last week. They'll be dealing with a dearth of wide receiving talent with both Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry out for this game. Chris Olave coming off the concussion. We'll see if he can get in. He was on the practice field, so that's promising. Andy Dalton will start at quarterback. Expecting heavy doses again of Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill. What are we doing with Taysom Hill, people? What the heck are we doing with Taysom Hill? We're probably playing him. There's about 3 or 4, 5 tight ends that you would play ahead of him right now. And maybe him ahead of some of those just based on the potential upside. It seems like tight end's a little bit of a dart toss anyway, right? So if you got a guy who has that 4 touchdown, he's not going to score 4 touchdowns again, but he could. I always say that because a few years back, Ben Roethlisberger had a 6 TD game, and I can remember me and Mike Dempsey on the Sirius XM Football Diehards program, which you can listen to also on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. We were talking about it at the time, saying, well, that's not going to happen again, and he did it again the next week. So we're hoping I speak this into existence. So I'll get to your questions here. Again, if you're just jumping in, I appreciate everyone coming every week. Look, it's a good time. Helps me clarify my thoughts. I'm here in the weeds, looking at the narrow picture before I get on the radio at night. And that kind of these, YouTube sessions, the radio programs give me a little time to clarify in my mind what I think about some of the ongoing situations that are happening so fast in real time that sometimes I don't think them through until I sit down and start talking to you. So I appreciate you coming. Hit the subscribe button here. It's right there. Hit the like button if you like what you're hearing here. If you dislike me, you can hit that button as well. I don't care. The algorithm doesn't either, and that's what we're after, just a little interest on the YouTubes. So Again, appreciate everybody coming here. You catch me here on Wednesday nights too. We're going to call it On the Hot Seat with Bob Harris. We're going to go a little deeper. I'll get to your questions on that program, but this program is all about your questions. So I'm going to do that right now. Answer your questions. Again, first name initial, last name, who they're playing, if you can. And I figure it out, but I want to go faster. All right, everybody, here we go. JR1616. Hi, Bob. I'm surprised that Darrell Henderson didn't get picked up in last night's one and done draft. What about you? So we do a one and one done draft every Friday night on Sirius XM on the Football Diehards show. If you don't listen to that, you should. It's on every Monday, Thursday, Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Saturday night, we're on both NFL Radio and the Fantasy Channel from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Sunday, you can hear me with Jeff Mance on the Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio pregame show. So check that out as well from 11 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. But I wasn't really, because the Rams are running. They're like one of the worst running offenses, and there are three other targets of opportunity or suddenly emerging players with probably better matchups and better situations. Like, I'm not saying Henderson can't do something good. I think he could, but the running game has been horrible for the Rams. If you want to see how horrible, go to footballdiehards.com, where I had an article up early this morning, like right after midnight Eastern Time. So check that out. But they're just running horribly, and they can't block for anybody. So they had three guys that showed up, right? Ramondre Stevenson. We think Damien Harris is going to be out. The initial reporting was it would be a multi-week absence with the hamstring injury he suffered last week. We saw Ramondre Stevenson run wild against the Detroit Lions once Harris left, and then we see him go up against a Cleveland Browns defense that has been quite generous. In fact, last week they allowed the Chargers and Austin Eckler to run amok, go nuts. What did Eckler have? 170 plus yards. And the Chargers haven't been running that well. So, the Patriots have, and we'll see who they have at quarterback, but I don't think it matters. Ramondre Stevenson's going to fare well. Benjamin's another guy, given the matchup against Seattle. Have seen multiple players in recent weeks run wild on them. So Benjamin with James Conner out, and also Darrell Williams out. Also, Jonathan Ward on IR. So you've got Keontae Ingram, the rookie, kind of receiving back, coming up, in the rotation. But also they added Corey Clement and Tyson Williams to the practice squad. I'm guessing one of them will be elevated. But that's why, JR. It's just there was an abundance of emerging guys, maybe with better matchups and in better situations. Steve Lindor wants to know. Superflex PPR League. He needs one. PJ Walker versus Rams. Oh, Andy Dalton versus Cincinnati. Revenge game. Brandon Ayuk versus Falcons. Nyheim Hines versus Jags. Rondale Moore versus Seattle. I want to play one of those quarterbacks. I think you're taking your chances with Walker. Not that he can't catch lightning in a bottle. Not that the Rams' pass defense has been going great guns. I think giving up the fourth most fantasy points to wide receivers. Maybe this is week to sneakily play DJ Moore in tournaments or something. You never know. But my expectations are obvious. With a quarterback coming in, there's a reason he was the third team quarterback going into the season on a team with horrible quarterbacks. So he is 2-0 as a starter in Carolina. So he's got that going for him. So I'm probably starting Andy Dalton in this one. I think Nyheim Hines is going to be cleared, but I just don't see the quarterback level upside in any of those guys. I mean, obviously any player can spike up at any given time, but Ayuk against the Falcons is a pretty sweet matchup. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to be back, so that's a limiting factor for Hines and Rondale Moore. It's a great matchup, but I am having trust issues with Rondale Moore. Albert, good morning. Thanks for coming. Remy, Bob, I have a question about my quarterback situation. I have Matthew Stafford, and I'm desperate for a replacement. Should I stash Deshaun Watson in the next few weeks or hang on, try to stream my quarterbacks weekly? I would do both if you can, right? And I know that can be a little hard with, roster limitations, etc. If you have room, definitely do both. If you can only do one, I'm all about doing, the streaming until you can get by, right? I mean, Stafford, how bad has it been? Let me just look and see how bad it's been, because I think it's been pretty bad, right? I mean, Cooper Kupp, that's the thing. Cooper Kupp can almost single-handedly float someone's boat, but he is I think, quarterback 22 on the season right now. I'm looking at the list of people playing better than him right now. They include Matt Ryan. They include Marcus Mariota. They include Jacoby Brissett, Daniel Jones, all guys possibly available as streaming options. So I'm not against any of that. But I would try to get Deshaun Watson right. He's not eligible to come back until, down the stretch. And honestly, he wasn't good in the preseason. We haven't seen him for quite some time, but been a top 5 quarterback in the past. I think that's worth taking a chance on. assuming you don't have any issues with his off-field issues. And some people do, and this is fantasy football, so I won't get into all the aspects of that. But I think that's a fair move. Aaron Jones or Dalvin Cook? I love Dalvin Cook's matchup against Miami. Probably slightly, and I think we rank them 9 and 10 on the footballdiehards.com website. We have rankings there. They're fantastic. You can check them out. I don't adhere to them strictly. One of the things you find about rankings, or at least I find about rankings, is I'm looking for people in the same tier, right? As long as I have people in a group, I'll play my preference within that group. And, we rely on algorithms. And honestly, many times when I go against the rankings, I end up regretting it. The rankings are pretty sharp. They really are. I'm always amazed at how much better they are than I expect. And, we all have our own little internal biases towards or against players. But if someone's within a tier, I'll go ahead and play them. In this case, it's Cook and Jones. I want to say 9 and 10. Yeah, it's 9 and 10. And I like Cook an awful lot in this matchup against Miami. They've been had a little bit. I believe I will have an article up on the Football Diehards website later today detailing the upside of that matchup. A little foreshadowing there. Got a lot of articles going up today, people. You should go to Football Diehards. It's a great website, I'm told. But yeah, I'm slight lean, and I mean it's the slightest of leans, right? Wintermute, Akers plus for McCaffrey coming. I don't think Akers and Cup maybe. I don't know if the Rams got the firepower to pull that off, but I get the reasoning behind this. In case y'all haven't been following along, you're just diving into the week and trying to figure things out. Matt Rule was fired as head coach of the Carolina Panthers, and it leads some to believe, and the rumors have started, that they will be selling out. They're looking to tank, right? David Tepper wants him a quarterback, and there's some quarterbacks in this draft class, and maybe he wants to ensure he has one. Or maybe he needs additional draft capital to secure the services of Sean Payton as his next head coach. Had an article go up on that late last night on footballdiehards.com. You'll be surprised to learn. Where, the Saints will want some compensation. David Tepper has a lot of money, but, they'll probably want something else as well. So, but the talk has been that McCaffrey, maybe DJ Moore, available via trade. The Buffalo Bills have been mentioned in connection with McCaffrey, because Brandon Beane is now the GM of the Buffalo Bills, is is formerly with the Panthers, is with the Bills as their GM. And boy, that would almost be cheating, right, for the Bills to add Christian McCaffrey to that offense. Had a debate with Mike Dempsey on the Football Diehards radio program. Would this be better? Would the Bills be a better place for Christian McCaffrey? Dempsey, look, I think another super explosive piece in an offense that obviously knows how to use super explosive pieces would be fantastic. And but Dempsey's point is fair. That could be a limiting factor. Right, all the mouths to feed there. Any given week, there are various players who could rise up. Gabe Davis, for example, Isaiah McKenzie, the tight end there, Dawson Knox, or Quentin Morris, if it's not Dawson Knox, or Khalil Shakir, or Stephon Diggs, Devin Singletary, James Cook. A lot of people available to this offense. Not that Christian McCaffrey wouldn't go in and dominate the backfield touches, but they do a lot of things there, and Josh Allen's a pretty good running back too for a quarterback. So anyway, I do think it'll be interesting to see that dynamic. And oftentimes we see teams that are playing these things happen. But I think the one thing that's safe to say is Akers is on his way out. If you read the full comments from Sean McVay, this is coming to an end. Whether remember a couple weeks ago, McVay basically said, after a lousy week one, McVay said Akers needed to show a little more sense of urgency, and maybe Akers is taking umbrage with that. Some of his comments, he still thinks he's plenty good. His numbers say otherwise. And look, he's not getting any help from the front line. I'll say this again. The Rams' offensive line is playing as bad as anyone in the league right now. So, anyway, interesting situation to watch, Wintermute, and we'll see. I had not heard that one yet, but I wonder what else it would take. The Rams don't have – they're up against the cap because they've spent a lot of money. Well, Allen Robinson, another $30 million next year, whether he's playing or not. Oh, my God. Few 2 for you. Speaking of Cam, what do I do with him? He is on my dynasty team, and I'm thinking of trading him for Hunt since I have Chubb. That's, I would do that if you can get that. I don't know how much extra you'll have to pay. I think people are going to be holding out on this one and seeing what happens. That would be my preferred choice. I don't have Cam Akers a lot. I don't have him in any redraft leagues because he's one of those players. I was talking about this last night on the radio. There's players that you just avoid not because you're avoiding them in drafts, but because they're just going at a price you're not paying. And that was the case with Cam Akers mostly. People are paying a little more for him. I'm thinking, wow, what a fortuitous turn of events for me. And it is. I'm really happy I don't have that. Also, I wasn't paying what other people were paying for Saquon Barkley, and that one didn't work out so well. So, right, so two-edged sword. Steve, so I would be holding Cam for right now. Just see how it plays out. Maybe he lands in a really good spot, right? Maybe the Falcons, who like to run the football and do it pretty effectively, and have a bunch of journeymen aside from Cordero Patterson, who's kind of a journeyman but been very good. So yeah, I kind of want to wait and see where he's going. But if you get an offer right now that gets you Kareem Hunt and you have Chubb, I think that's fair. Steve Linder needs one PPR league. Rondale Moore versus Seattle or Ayuk versus Falcons. Both fantastic matchups. I'm going to have to check the numbers on this one. They're right in the same range. We have them both ranked 35 for Ayuk and 37, I want to say, for Rondale Moore. So this could be your preference kind of thing. I probably, I think the chance of Arizona needing to throw the ball more seems likely, right? So I might go Rondale Moore for that reason. But it's very close. Paul DeSantis. Good morning, Bob. Good morning, Paul. Half-point PPR. Start D. Schultz at Philly. Robert Tonyan versus Jets, or pick up Disley versus Arizona. Oh, my. Oh, my. Someone throwing out red meat to me. You all know my addiction, or if you don't, you should. To the dismissal. Love to fire it. It's pretty hard for me to, honestly, I'd say that, it's almost been kind of been an ongoing joke, right? Where we kind of laugh at the notion that I would love to fire the dismissal. And he's in a 3-man split, right? That's the problem. I think he's been very effective, and I think you can play him. Not looking to play him. I like to see Dalton Schultz play a full, healthy game before I get too excited. I might go Tonyan here on this one against the Jets. Seems like he's picking up the pace a little bit. Andrea, need one wide receiver, one flex. Sutton versus the Chargers. Pittman versus Jacksonville. Hollywood Brown versus Seattle. And Eno Benjamin versus Seattle. Oh. I kind of want to play both the Arizona Cardinals in this one a little bit. So I definitely want to play Hollywood Brown. I probably want to play Benjamin as well. I'm doing both of those. If you have an aversion to that notion, if you don't think that Arizona offensive basket isn't good enough to put all your eggs in, all your fantasy football eggs, that is, I would flex to Pittman. I like Sutton fine. Sutton is the one. Sutton seems to be like the one piece in Denver that I'm like semi-comfortable playing. Even with, I'll just check the numbers here. Even with, Sutton. Our rankings like Sutton a lot more than I do. Well, a lot more than they like Pittman. It's again in the same tier, right at the high end wide receiver 2 rankings. So, I'd lean Pittman a little bit, but feel free to go with Sutton there if you don't like it. But I'm playing both the Cardinals, and the pivots are only in case you don't want to play both the Cardinals. All right. I scrolled too far. Here I am. All right. PPR league for Alejandro Garcia. 100-yard bonuses. Need one flex and one running back, 2 flexes out of Eno Benjamin, ETN, Henderson, Lazard, and Pittman. I want to play Eno. Probably would play Henderson in this case, and might go Pittman over ETN. Honestly, all 3 backs is not a horrible play. If that's how you're leaning, I think ETN's gotten a little run. We saw a little better workload for Robinson in the first Colts game, and remember Shaquille Leonard is out again this week, the middle linebacker, so that kind of works in Robinson's favor. Wouldn't be against ETN, but probably would prefer to play Pittman in that case for me. And I like Lazard too, but you just don't know which week it's going to be. Is it a Lazard week? I will say this, I think Lazard has been relatively, I think, more productive than we think. Let me just look it up. I want to say he's hit double digits every week. Yeah, last 3 weeks he's been, reasonably okay, right? I mean, double digits, 6 targets, 8 targets, 8 targets. So he's been relatively busy, but I'd probably lean Pittman still. Geno Smith or Aaron Rodgers this week. Hello, Geno Smith against Arizona. I'm going to go ahead and play Geno Smith in this one. Joe Mixon versus New Orleans or Benjamin versus Seattle. I'm gonna probably stick with Mixon. I thought he ran well last week. Finally got his average up to a decent level. He'd been under 3 yards a carry, but he was going to still run against light boxes even without T. Higgins, just because of the way teams are defending Jamar Chase. So I'm going to go that way. I like Benjamin. I think this is a great matchup, but he's kind of more of a situation where maybe you lost somebody or you're looking to fill a spot with the bye weeks. By the way, did I mention there were bye weeks this week? In case you've forgotten, there are 4 teams on bye, so don't forget about that. Right? Keep that in mind as you're heading into your games. And if you need to know, it's the Lions, Raiders, Titans, and Texans. Sorry, Damian Pierce. Sorry, all those Lions offensive players that are doing great. Sorry, Devontae Adams. By the way, Devontae Adams may get another week off. Sorry, Derrick Henry managers too. Titans out as well. So keep that in mind. And so that may be an issue. I mean, I love ETN. I think we rank him right around running back 20. I think he has running back 1 upside, but so does Joe Mixon any given week. And I know it's kind of a tough matchup, but we saw last week Seattle, Kenneth Walker, another one of those targets of opportunity that kept us from going with with Henderson in the one and done draft last night. Was Kenneth Walker the third? It will now be the starter, but he ran pretty well against the Saints last week. So I'm gonna stick with Mixon, Andrea. But again, sometimes I know I tend to go with maybe sometimes the more cautious, safer plays or perceived to be safer plays. Sometimes I mentioned that I play my hunches. In this case, I mean I have a hunch that Benjamin is going to fare well. I don't know that he's going to fare Joe Mixon well. Also, I will remind you one more time: play your hunches. Don't play my hunches. And you can play my hunches. I'm giving them to you, and you can feel free if you trust them. But play your hunches, right? That's part of the fun of this whole pastime is you get to act on your own things. And so if you think something is like crazy, a lot of times I think questions are being asked or posed to me are really the question is, am I crazy to do this? And a lot of times they're phrased exactly like that. Am I crazy to sometimes it is, sometimes you are, but mostly you're not, right? Because in this case, Benjamin, given the Seattle matchup, people have run wild on them as well. So I get it, Andrea. So go with your own feelings there. I prefer Mixon. Hurst or Pitts this week. Neither of them are healthy, right? So that doesn't help give us any clarity. Hayden Hurst has played through his groin injury. I think going back to the Dallas game, I want to say that was week 3. He's listed as questionable. I think we're all a little concerned about Cincinnati players listed as questionable, and we can thank T. Higgins for that. Last week, T. Higgins was widely expected to play despite his questionable designation. He had played through the ankle injury the week before, came in, worked on a limited basis all week, and then played 10 snaps. That's the thing about a player going in injured, and that's why a lot of times, if you're splitting hairs, you'll say, wow, I love this player, but he's not quite healthy, and I like this guy a little. A lot of times I just default to who's the healthy guy. Anyone can get hurt, but someone who's already hurt is more likely to get hurt worse, right? It's just you're following the obvious logic there. So in this case, they're both hurt. I probably, honestly, I think Hurst is a safer play right now. He's been getting tons of volume. Let's see how far off the algorithm is on that. Yeah, the rankings like that as well. So I would probably play Hurst. He's been getting pretty good volume. And wait and see on Pitts. I'm not saying move on from Pitts, but it's not been great, right? It seems like the usage has been poor. It seems like they're running the ball a lot. And we're at that point where, early in the season, our mantra is play your studs or stick with your studs or your perceived studs until you kind of get things sorted out. And then sometimes players who you didn't expect to be your studs end up being your studs, right? In this case right now, Hayden Hurst is playing pretty good football, right? Let's just see where he's at in the big scheme of things. I want to say Hayden Hurst is tight end 11. Kyle Pitts is not. He's tight end 23, right? So, there it is. They've defined themselves. And so sometimes we stick with the thing that we want to be the stud because we want it to be the stud and because of the capital invested and draft capital invested to acquire that. I'm, pretty much of the mind where once someone has revealed themselves not to be that, sure, they could turn back into that, and I might miss out on that breakout performance. But I hope that breakout is just the start of something bigger when it happens, and then I'll move on to that player, back onto that player. So there you have it. I'm playing Hurst this week, Connor. Long answer for a short question. You're welcome. I'm Bob Harris. That's how I roll. ETN or Taysom Hill in my flex, 1-point PPR. Like, Taysom Hill's kind of a swing for the fence play. I think the role is going to be good this week, again, because we have no Jarvis Landry. We have no Michael Thomas. We have Andy Dalton in at quarterback. We don't know if Chris Olave is going to be able to play. He's coming off a concussion. He's knocked out cold, right? Looks like he's close to being cleared, but I don't know that he's been cleared yet. He has been on the practice field all week. So, but I think it's going to be a lot of opportunities for Hill. There will also be a fair amount of opportunities for Travis Etienne, right? So, I mean, I think it's maybe more what you need. Etienne, I feel like, has a safer floor, but he definitely doesn't have the Taysom Hill upside because we saw that last week, and it's huge. It's a very high ceiling for him. So maybe that's the approach you take, Jesse, is you say, all right, I just let the rest of my lineup strong. My opponent looks like they're struggling a little bit. I just need to not take a 0 this week, right? Maybe in that case, I would feel more comfortable with ETN. If I'm looking at my, he's got a murder's row. I'm going against Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs stack, and they've got, high end, right, and I'm going, oh my God, how am I going to keep up with this? And then maybe I go with Taysom Hill as a swing for the fence play. Bradley Madison, I'm a little thin at wide receiver, but pretty stacked at running back. A team is looking for a running back, and they have Pickens on the bench. I'm thinking about offering Mostert or Melvin Gordon or David Montgomery. I mean, it's a little bit of a speculative play. I might ask for a little more and see if I could get it. But, if I really want Pickens, if you really have that feeling about Pickens coming on, it looks like the Steelers are going to be throwing the hell out of the ball. I mean, are they going to be 50-plus times a game? I don't think so. They were last week, though. Right? And they can't run, apparently, as any Najee Harris investor will tell you. I'd try to get more, but I think all those players, the range of players. I'm wondering if any of those guys are cracking your starting lineup based on the draft capital you would have invested to get them. Maybe David Montgomery. He's not playing well. I mean, Mostert is coming off, is on a better roll right now, and he may be the one that people will be most interested in, especially if he has another big game against Minnesota this week. I have an article that just went up on Football Diehards outlining that matchup and why it might work well for Raheem Mostert. You should check it out. FootballDiehards.com. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe. Use the promo code Diehards. Get 15% off your pro-rated purchase. It's the flash update, we call it. It's our regular season premium content. Includes all our tools, including lineup optimizers, DFS ownership percentages, all kinds of crazy red zone stats, target stats, inside the 10 rushing, everything you need, right? Constant flow of news and information, great columns from our fantastic staff, including John Law, Jamie Calandro. See Eric Romoff and him tonight on the DFS lineup video, 9 p.m. Eastern, right on this very YouTube channel. We have, that I mentioned, we have Justin Lanero, Evan Tarciano, Joe Colana, Brad Cruz, great high-stakes player, does a sit-start every week. Drew Phelps with his prop bet articles for each set of games. Reginald James doing the commissioner articles. Great work by him. Very entertaining articles. I really love them. So good stuff available for everyone there at the website. Matthew Sharon's Dollar Store Free Agent. So don't miss out on any of that. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And meantime, I'll get back to the questions now that I've done the commercial. Hurts or Herbert? I'm going to go ahead and play Hurts. I mean, let's see how far off the ranking is. I mean, it's a tough matchup against Dallas. I mean, the rushing equity is right there for you with Hurts. I mean, we saw last week the Philadelphia didn't have a great game offensively, but Hurts still, came through because he got the touchdown. I think we rank him, I'm going to say 3 and 6. Herbert, Denver defense, not a joke. So, we'll see if Keenan Allen comes back. I put an article up early on the site where Keenan Allen does not think he will be back this week. We'll find out more from the I'll just check my notifications here to make sure nothing has happened. They'll be practicing soon, and we'll find out if he has Keenan Allen or not. I mean, he's been cobbling it together pretty damn good either way. So I'm fine playing Justin Herbert. I'm going to play him a lot, but Jalen Hurts right now is the Konami Code King, right? The rushing and passing star. Mark Jerzinski? How was that? Opponent starting Kyle Murray, Rondale, Dubs, Ayuk in my second. Okay. Opponent starting Kyler Murray. So do you play Rondale, Dubs, Ayuk in my second wide receiver spot? I have enough in my flex. I'm trying to process the question. Make sure. So you're just basically trying to figure out your second wide receiver spot. So I'm probably playing dubs of that group. Just check what the rankings say for you. Yep, I'm going to play dubs. I like Ayuk, and I like the matchup just fine. But again, I think they go a little more run heavy in San Francisco. Deebo Samuel's going to get his. George Pickens seems to be coming on. I'm a big Ayuk fan, but I don't know that I would play him this week over either of those other two. Eno in the flex. I gotcha. Yeah. You already got your fair share of Cardinals. But anyway, Dubs is the play for me. George Del Prete. George. Hey, Bob. Flex options. Alex Pierce. Alec. Drake London. DJ Moore. Wan'Dale Robinson. Kareem Hunt. Leaning Pierce. Would you start any of these nicer over Sutton and Gabe Davis? I would not start any of those over Sutton or Gabe Davis, if that's what you mean. I have a little bit of a hunch about DJ Moore, just the way the Rams have not been playing good defense, but you're counting on PJ Walker to get the job done. I'm probably with you on Pierce, but I think Drake London's probably a good play as well. It's just a tough matchup, right? My play would be for sure London, but I wouldn't talk you out of Pierce if that's what you want to do. And Wan'Dale Robinson, we'll see if he gets back. Kareem Hunt might be the better play here. Now that I'm looking at the whole list, I'd probably play Hunt, but I'd probably play Hunt. But your lean is not crazy. Hey Pedro, glad you're feeling better, sir. Again, I scrolled way too far. Having problems trying to decide what running backs to go with. Thoughts on the following: Mixon, Dobbins, Ken Walker, ETN, Mostert must start. Need 3 out of 5. Yes, good problem to have. So definitely Mixon. Definitely Kenneth Walker. I'm probably going Mostert over Dobbins right now. I mean, they just haven't given Dobbins the run just yet, and we'll see if that starts to happen. I don't need to play it until it does. I think those three, Mixon, Walker, and Mostert. And Mostert right now is close to must start. For me right now, just given the workload, and I'm assuming that will continue. I haven't looked at my underdog best ball as Troy Olsen, Boy Fuego. I have not, for that very reason. I don't know how I should look right now, right? I tend to not pay attention until after the season. Let's see. I don't know. I'll have to look. I don't want to slow down the things. I'll check and I'll get back with you, Troy, because I need to look now that you mention it. Ingram or Disley for this weekend? I'm sure someone has asked about Pitts at this point. Would you play either of those two over him? Probably yes. I mean, number one, Pittman goes in is questionable, right? He's not entirely healthy. I would probably play Ingram over Disley. I would probably play Ingram over Ingram right now. And like I talked about a little earlier, if you want to play Pittman based on the investment you've made in him, that's fine. I understand the desire to do that. But, for me, I would rather wait until the breakout and play players who are playing more productively. Like right now in the season, Kyle Pitts is tight end 22. He is what he is, right? Regardless of my investment in him, regardless of all the talent he has, right? Is he going to break out at some point? I say yes. Do I need to play it every week and wait for it? No, I'm going to play someone more productive, and I think Ingram's got a good matchup this week, so I would go with that. I think Disley, again, I'm a huge Will Disley person, and even then, he's kind of more of an emergency play for me. JR1616 PPR, I need a wide receiver, tight end, and a flex from these four. Darius Slayton, Nelson Aguilar, Evan Ingram, Irv Smith. Probably Slayton is at the top of that list. Aguilar is not necessarily healthy. The Patriots have a list of questionable players that includes Damien Harris, who I don't think is actually questionable, but they're saying he is. I don't know how questionable. I don't know where Aguilar falls in that range of, the Patriots if the range is from the previous probable to the doubtful range, which I feel like, Harris, I'm pretty confident is at the doubtful end of that scale. I think, Mac Jones is probably somewhere closer to the middle, being truly questionable. I don't know where Nelson Aguilar is. I think Jacoby Myers more closer to the probable end. Aguilar, I'm totally in the dark. So it'd be Slayton and Ingram for me. Will Power, Waddle or Pittman this week in a half-point PPR? I'm going to play Pittman, right? I mean, I think, this is not, and he's also picked, Will has picked Taysom Hill as his backup for Kittle with the Saints receivers all out this week along with Winston. I think Taysom, I think it's, I think that's a reasonable assumption, right? Not that you're going to get last week's production. And I'm saying that again to make sure that it's possible I get last week's productions, trying to speak it into existence by claiming it will never happen again. Look at me go. Yeah, I mean, I think Kittle's starting to rise and the passing game's a little better, and this is a pretty good matchup for him. So let me check the rankings here just to see. I'm probably playing Kittle in this one over Taysom Hill, but Taysom Hill is still, if you need a huge upside play, Taysom Hill is still that, and I think you've identified it, right? The circumstances are right for that to happen. And I'm playing Pittman over Waddle. Again, Skylar Thompson starting quarterback this week. I think it'll be a run-heavy week, so nothing against Waddle. I just think Pittman's a better play. Pedro, thoughts on Rondale Moore after the week for the rest of the year when Hopkins comes back? Seriously think of dropping in order to make some room for Garrett Wilson? I think I would probably be thinking the same thing. I mean, I'm not, Rondale Moore's been serviceable, right? But I don't think they've ever really figured out how to make him be the guy they drafted him to be, right? Just seems like they're struggling with that. Seems like that's not the first guy they struggle with, like Andy Isabella. Who did they draft Andy Isabella ahead of? DK Metcalf, do I want to say? I don't know. There was a whole list of receivers who went after Andy Isabella. And the Cardinals thought all the world of him and just couldn't turn it into all their thoughts in the world into a role because he wasn't. And I don't know if Rondale Moore is ever going to be that guy either. So Garrett Wilson, I think, will be. So I would. Pedro, you and I have talked offline about the Jets wide receivers a little bit, and I think it's a little bit of a crapshoot right now. But if I was putting my chips on one, it would probably be Wilson. Will Power traded Cooper and Dubs for A.J. Brown. That'll work. Cooper's weird. Amari Cooper, right? Or did you mean Connor? I don't know. I'm guessing Cooper. But Cooper's been does nothing on the road, everything at home. All his touchdowns come at home. He's been a monster at home, right? 20 points a game at home. Can't do anything on the road. They're at home this week. Benjamin and Cortland Sutton. Silas Ratcliffe asked that question. I'm probably playing, Benjamin in this one. If you don't feel comfortable that he's ready to handle that role in a favorable matchup, or that they're going to chop it up, maybe we'll watch later today and see if they elevate one or two of those players from the practice squad. I think this is fairly close, but I'm going Sutton. I'm going Benjamin over Sutton just for the upside. All right, we've seen that. I'm looking at we have at the website, footballdiehards.com. You should check it out. It's we have flex rankings, right? That puts all the players in a single list so we can kind of go through and see how close we are. I just want to see how close I am on this, or how close Sutton is to him. Pretty close. They're in the same tier, so it's a really reasonable question. And Benjamin is higher, so there you go. Dave Gladstone, good day. Spidey Sense question here. Do you think that maybe limited participation in practice is a new normal for some veterans? I think that so you'll see that a lot, and I think in some cases it is, and that's some of the tea leaves that we're forced to read. As fantasy managers, we see a lot, like in Tampa, where I think Mike Evans got Friday off, right? And a lot of times though they'll list that as rest, and sometimes you'll notice if you pay close attention to the injury report, the Wednesday and Thursdays that'll be just listed as injuries, and then the Friday it'll be listed as the injuries, and they'll add the word rest. I think teams are getting a little more cautious about that, but yeah, especially for the veterans, you're going to see that limited participation or non-participation is going to be something we see a lot. So it's something to watch for. And look for those, on the injury report. That detail is usually given. And another thing, a couple things about the injury report while we're here. Hi, Mr. Scampers. Thanks for coming. I was not getting worried much. I think, something, we talk about the injury report a little bit. It's a little bit vague, but it offers clues a lot of times. Players show up on Thursday. That's not great. But if they show up Thursday and they're on again Friday, I'm a little less worried, right? Because if something happened to him, so you'll hear like reporters are only allowed on the practice field for the first 10, 20 minutes, right, during stretching and essentially, and then they're run off. They call it the open portion of practice when nothing happens, so nothing gets seen. And players will either be there or not be there, or sometimes, like in the case of Damien Harris, I know I heard the other day that he was seen leaving at the end of the open portion. So they had him out there for the open portion, maybe because they don't want anyone to know what his real condition is in New England. Imagine that. But players who are hurt in the middle of the week, it's always a concern. But if they get on the injury report Thursday, like a limited practice, meaning maybe something happened to them during practice, but they're back on Friday, I think that's a good sign. If they're not back on Friday, that's a bad sign. If they show up on Friday, that's never encouraging, right? Players who are added to the injury report on Friday. There was one this week. Who was it got added Friday that makes me nervous? Who was that? Somebody. I almost have to look. Oh, Marvin Jones Jr. added on Friday. I mean, with a hamstring. That's not good, right? Hi, Steven. It's okay to be late. This is not like, we don't have rules here. We have some rules. If you're asking a question, put the first initial or name along with the last name and the player and who the team they're playing if you can. That helps me. Hi, Bob, says Jason Wilson. Trying to trade for a tight end from a manager who has Kelsey and Andrews. Oh, my God. What is that person so greedy? Who would you be more willing to part with? Ramondre, and it might be the best time to sell high. I mean, at some point, you'd think Damien Harris is going to be back. I mean, the reporting is it'll be a few weeks, but, the tradition in New England is to split that backfield up. I like those other pieces as frontline pieces. And I don't think you'd get as much for Swift right now, just the fact that he's missed weeks and on the bye right now. It might be a little harder to move him. Will Power, what would you do if your commission 3 owners haven't paid their league fees yet? I'm in that situation going in tomorrow. This is a rough situation, right? You can cut them off. I wish Reginald James was here. Reginald, are you in the chat, sir? The Commish HQ author at Football Diehards. I mean, you got to get the money, right? And I mean, you can cut them off from making roster moves, but that kind of hurts the whole league. But I mean, at some point, I mean, they've either given up on the league and maybe they're not making roster moves if they're not paying. But you got to put your foot down, Will. I mean, that's where you're at. Maybe get the consensus of all the managers and, discuss with them and say, hey, here's what I'm planning to do, or send out an email to the entire league. These 3 and single them out, have not paid. I've asked them multiple times. Here are my options. I'm going to either cut off their waiver, access. I'm going to keep them from making lineups. I mean, you throw off the competitive balance of the league when you do this. So it sucks that they're doing this to you guys, but you're going to have to figure that out. And, putting your foot down is the way to go. I mean, they seem to be not listening to anything else right now, or 5 weeks in. Always good to get the money before the league starts. You know that, Will. Well, I'm not going to lecture or anything. Just saying. Stephen Pavia, would you start Devontae, Dallas, or Kareem Hunt, New England in the PPR flex? I'd probably play Hunt. Yep, that seems like I think, Steven, that's the first thing on the list, right? Dominic Conti. Hello, Dominic. Thanks for coming. Good morning. Pick 1 for my flex PPR. Gerald Everett, tight end versus Denver. Carter, running back versus Jets, or Gage. Probably leaning Carter here. Like, I like Everett and all, and I think Keenan Allen will be out again, but Everett can pull a disappearing act from time to time. I do like his upside a little bit, but we've seen Carter's touchdown upside as well. Make no mistake, Breece Hall has taken over this lead role, but they're using 2 backs in New York. Hi, Dame. Half-point PPR, Pittman versus Jacksonville, CH versus Buffalo, or London versus San Francisco. I'm playing CEH. I know he's been touchdown dependent. He's also been scoring the touchdowns. I want a piece of the shootout or anticipated shootout with the Chiefs-Bills. Do you think the Eagles' defense versus Dallas is a better play than the Niners versus Atlanta? Boy, kind of yes. I kind of do, just kind of running through the logic. I mean, who's going to get more opportunities? The Niners, if it's a really run-heavy approach. The rankings agree with me for a change. No, they've been agreeing with me a lot. So, yes. I do think the Eagles is a better play than the Niners. Just I think there might be more opportunities there. Stephen Pavia, are you off the Curtis Samuel train yet? I am not. Not going to get me off. again, I think the way the role is constructed, are there going to be weeks where he doesn't show up? Yes. Are there going to be weeks where he is still the leading component of this offense? Let's just look and see where he was through week 5. I won't add in week 6 because it was horrible. Going into the week 5 game, what was he? I want to say wide receiver. What? I mean, I'll do the year-to-date sort, but he's going to be up higher than he should be. Yeah, he's still a top 20 running back or wide receiver. So, yes, I'm not off the train. It will take a bit to get me off. But I'm not as adamant about it, right? I mean, there seemed like there was a couple weeks where it was every answer, but that was only because he really stood out because the workload was great. I mean, I want to say going into week 4 or maybe even week 5, there's only 3 receivers that have more touches than him, right? So that's why. Opportunities. They're important. By the way, I'm Bob Harris. You're here. We've got about another 15 minutes. I'll get to as many questions as I can. If you don't get your question answered here, you can try me on the radio tonight. I'll be on 3 hours on SiriusXM NFL and Fantasy Sports Radio from 8 to 11 p.m. We will take a lot of calls during that program. You can catch me on the pregame show tomorrow. Also, you can go to the website and check the rankings because that's where a lot of the information that I'm using comes from. Although, as you can tell, I'm a little independent. I kind of go with my brain first and then verify that against the rankings to make sure I'm not crazy while I'm verifying you're not crazy. Half-point PPR for Mr. Scampers. Nixon, Mike Williams versus Denver. Yeah, so I'm going, right. That's what, I love Mike Williams, but Patrick Surtain is killing guys. Figuratively speaking, not literally. He would be in jail if it was literally. And yeah, I'm going Mixon there. Again, I'm kind of taking some optimism from the way Kenneth Walker ran against him last week, who broke open some big plays, and the way that Mixon ran last week. I mean, it just seems like maybe it's coming together a little bit. Good morning, Rick. Never Steven. That's right, Scampers. Tell him. Curtis Samuel stands unite. Should I risk playing Kirk again or insert Duvernay? I would probably risk playing Kirk again. Just think the opportunities. For me, he's going to be the leader of that portion of the Jaguars offense, right? The receiving portion. I mean, it's going to shift back and forth. Duvernay, even as wide receiver 1, is not really wide receiver 1 there. Mark Andrews is, and there are other pieces there. So, yeah, I'm going Kirk for sure for me. Clyde Jesus Cristo of the league. Clyde Edwards, Hilaire, Devin Singletary, Darrell Henderson. Melvin Gordon start too. Clyde Edwards, Hilaire for sure. Probably going Henderson over Singletary as a target of opportunity there. I do want a piece of that Bills Chiefs game, but I have it in Edwards, Hilaire. And Melvin Gordon, I mean, I'd be fine playing him. The Chargers are a very, generous defense, right? A run defense for sure. But the problem is he's, unless we get clearance today, so if we find out later today, the injury report comes out and he's off the injury report, he's been limited this week with a neck injury, played through it last week. I don't want a questionable guy going into Monday night if I don't have a viable fallback plan. So if he's cleared today, I'd go Gordon over Henderson and Henderson, if not over Singletary. Geno or Burrow? Probably still playing Burrow, but it's closer than it needs to be, right? What's going on here? There's something going on. Notifications are happening. Uh-oh. Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor both downgraded to out. There we have it. You can tell when something's happening when your watch starts going. So, yeah, no Jonathan Taylor, no Nyheim Hines. So that makes it a little easier. I mean, it makes some decisions for us. I'm a little surprised at this, right? I thought they were heading in a good direction. Hate to see that. Anyway, Deion Jackson, Phillip Lindsay. Horrible news. All right, so there we go with that. So Geno or Burrow. Back, I want to get through these questions so I can go write updates about Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, because that's not good news. Probably playing, it's like we rank them 8 and 9 on the site. Burrow 8, Smith 9. I can make a pretty good argument for Smith, so it's that close. Stafford or Zach Wilson? Probably playing Stafford over Zach Wilson, but I mean, I am playing Stafford over Zach Wilson and probably not feeling good about it. Gentry, Fant, or Otten? K-Dot's coming on a little bit. I'd probably play Gentry in this game, though, with Pat Freiermuth out. Is a redraft. Is Mike Evans, Tony Pollard, and Davis Price enough for D. Swift and Geno? I'm very thin at wide receiver and good at RB. Is Mike? So somebody's offering you those things. Yeah, it probably is, because I'm guessing you're pretty good at quarterback. I mean, this is basically Evans and some pieces for Swift. And I mean, Geno's fine, but if you have a fine quarterback, you're happy to play every week. Yeah, it's fair. Troy Olsen taking the hardline approach. That's a good suggestion, Troy. Thank you. Mike Levine. Half my PPR. I need one running back and one tight end. One running back and one tight end. One flex. Eno, Darrell Henderson, Ertz, Goddard, Thielen. Eno's in. I want to say Ertz slightly over Goddard. I mean, they're both viable plays. I'll go Ertz over Goddard. And I'm going to probably play Henderson as that flex. Scampers, half-point PPR, need to sit one. Drake London versus San Francisco. Garrett Wilson versus Green Bay. Kareem Hunt versus... Probably Garrett Wilson for me. Like, I think he's a very talented player, but the target shares, seems to be like, what was it, 4 for everybody last week? 4 for Wilson, 4 for Davis, 4 for Elijah Mitchell. Until it gets sorted out, I can kind of dial back on that. Need 2 running backs, says Mike Levine. Henderson, Cam is out. Yes, he is. Hunt or Mostert. Mostert for sure. And I'd probably go Henderson over Hunt and take a shot. I mean, I think it's very close on those two. You're just playing the opportunity there with Henderson. I don't think Malcolm Brown is going to cut significantly into that workload. So there's that. 14-team PPR, Rick Brusuelas says. Start Joshua Kelly versus Denver or Jerick McKinnon versus Buffalo. I'm starting Jerick McKinnon there. Raheem Mostert, a good pickup for the long term. I think Raheem Mostert is a good pickup. As long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to retain a role similar to what we've seen, right? Especially if they want to run the ball a little more effectively and keep the pressure off Tua Tagovailoa upon his return next week. Bradley Madison. Would you drop David Montgomery for Darrell Henderson? I don't know if I want to go that far. I'd probably look for somebody else to drop. But, if you need somebody to play this week and you didn't play Montgomery and you can drop him, then yes. But I do think Khalil Herbert's coming on lately, but I don't know if he's coming on to the point. I think they're going to play both of them. I think it's going to be a difficult call. So GM Flex, Czar. I don't know how to say that. GM Flex. Good morning, Flex. Eno, ETN, Dobbins, Devontae Smith. So I'm going to probably go Eno and Dobbins here. Olave or Deontay Johnson, says Jesse. If Olave is active and playing, I'm going that way. I'm not afraid to play Deontay Johnson, though. I would probably play Deontay over London. Hell yeah, Melvins. Exactly. I'm tearing the Melvins. Honey bucket, baby. Need a PPR running back 2 between Dobbins and Giants or ETN from Indianapolis. If you need to make up for a stinker, boy, I think Dobbins has, if they ever give him the role, he has the upside there. ETN, I like the matchup this week. I thought James Robinson fared pretty well. That doesn't mean this game's going to turn out like the last game, but it seems like the Colts can be run upon. Again, Shaquille Leonard out, so I'm probably going Dobbins in this one. M. Terran, let's get defensive. Jags D or Indy or Ravens at Giants. Yeah. So I think there's going to be more playmaking opportunity for the Jaguars against Indianapolis. They're not blocking well. Matt Ryan's getting hit a lot. Giants are handing the ball off to Saquon. I'm going Jaguars. Alejandro Garcia, half-point PPR, Godwin or Henderson. Probably going Henderson there, but I love Godwin. I mean, I almost think I'm like overplaying the opportunity because, again, Rams have been horrible running the ball. They're horrible at blocking the ball. I want a piece of that Tampa Bay offense. I might go Godwin here, actually, as I think it through. DB, is A.J. Brown for Jamar Chase worth doing if I have Burrow? I mean, I think it's a fair trade. I'm hoping that, at some point, T. Higgins or somebody, hasn't been this week or last week, starts, forcing defenses to change the way they're guarding Jamar Chase, and he can open up a little bit. But I get wanting to have the stack. The problem with that is every game that, you have a crappy game for the Bengals offense, you're going to have 2 guys that are hurting you instead of just one. So I'm probably not doing this. I think you're rearranging the deck furniture, but I'm not doing it, but I think it's fair. Keenan Allen versus London. We'll find out later today. This decision may be made for you. If you look at footballdiehards.com right now, there's an article up in which Keenan Allen says he doesn't think he's going to play in this week. So I don't feel great, but we'll have more official confirmation, or if he shows up as questionable, you have a questionable designation, and then comments by him saying, I don't think I'm ready this week, or I don't think I'm going to be ready. He said it's up in the air, to be fair, but that he didn't think he would go this week. So I'd probably go London and play it safe. You're welcome, Jason. Thanks for coming. Cut them off, says Willpower. George Cook stacked at running back with Barkley, Swift, Pierce, Sanders. Yeah, you are. Wide receivers, A.J. Brown. You're stacked everywhere. I mean, you have the firepower to make that gamble. So yes, if you'd like. I think I'm just catching up with the comments because I think I said that JT and Hines are out this week. But if I didn't say it, Jonathan Taylor and Hines are out this week. Should I trade Henderson for Danny Dimes and J.K. Dobbins in a 2-quarterback league? Yes. Thoughts on starting Higgins this week? If he's questionable, it's going to be hard, right? More notifications. That's never a good sign. Just checking to make sure somebody else. No, I don't see anything else. Well, I don't know that Higgins definitely isn't playing. Has he been ruled out, George? Like Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines? I think he's listed as questionable last I saw, but okay. But George's point is taken, right? Like he was questionable last week. He played 10 snaps. I mean, it's a concern. So I'm probably going to avoid him if I have like reasonable options. If I don't have reasonable options, I'm probably going to take my chances as long as he's active. If you have Boyd as a fallback, maybe that decision gets made for you. I would play it out and take it up to kickoff and see. But to George's point, not officially ruled out, but didn't practice at all until Friday, and that was a walkthrough. So we may find out more about this today. We may get the same kind of tweaking we got on Taylor and Hines at some point. Got just a few more minutes before I have to go write that Taylor and Hines update, and I will have to run soon. Pedro, what are your thoughts on Pickett to Pickens and Pittsburgh? I think it's going to be great. I mean, I think they're going to be throwing a lot. No, not too bold to play Pickens over Devontae Smith. The Dallas defense is scary. I think all those things are true. Thank you, Will, for asking. Start Dubs or McKenzie this week. I'm playing Dubs this week. As much as I want a piece of that Bills-Chiefs game, I'd rather have, I like it, but McKenzie, I think, is going to chop it up. We saw in the past he was sharing with Jamison Crowder. Now I think Shakir's worked his way in the mix. So I'm starting Dubs. Tinderhot has the best adult dating site ever. Way to go. Scotty Boy, hey, Bob, pick 2 out of the following. 1/2 PPR, James Robinson, Amari Cooper, Christian Kirk. Cooper's at home, everybody. He's been phenomenal at home. I'm going to probably take a shot at that if I can. I'm playing James Robinson and probably Kirk since I don't want to play both, Jaguars. That seems safe. And it's home. Taylor and Hines just ruled out. Yes, they were. I'm probably still starting Henderson over Jackson, but, I think it's a bit of a coin flip. Go with your choice. Flex Deion Jackson or Rondale Moore. Go ahead and flex Deion Jackson. Is Deion Jackson playable with Hines and JT out? He is. I don't know that I'd play him over Pittman, Miles Sanders, or Mixon. No, I probably wouldn't do that. With Hines and Taylor now out, where would you rank Jackson out of Indy? I haven't done the rankings yet because it just happened. We'll work on that after the show if you'd like to go check the website. He obviously moves up into a playable commodity. I'm probably not moving him up above like flex level, right? I think he's going to split it up. We'll see. I'm guessing they'll move Phillip Lindsay off the practice squad again this week. And, it's not like the Colts, any more than the Rams, have been lighting the world on fire with their rushing attack. They both have run blocking issues. So, I don't want to go overboard on the Deion Jackson. So I see everyone is very excited about Deion Jackson. Maybe temper it and think it through a little more carefully. Not saying he's not capable of great games, just saying the running game. Jonathan Taylor hasn't been capable of great games. How about that? Since, he's averaged, 8 fantasy points a game since his 27-week or 25-plus point week opener. So I think that's a little more my concern there than just like I'm anti-Deion Jackson. No, not a show of support for Melvin Gordon, although I love Melvin Gordon. Very nice man. I think we will see some Latavius Murray at some point, but he's a little nicked up too as well. If you have room on the roster, yes, that's the kind of move I would not be afraid to make. Pick up Jackson with Hines and JT out? Yes, go right ahead. Thanks, Scampers. Appreciate it. Thanks, Pedro. Appreciate it. All right, everybody, it is the top of the hour. I'm going to have to move on. Again, pick up Deion Jackson if you feel the need to. If you have a hole, he is a player with a sudden opportunity that was unexpected, so run out and get him right away before other people in your league do. It's probably first come, first served time, so I hope you did that right when I first mentioned it, right when it happened. But otherwise, yes. But, temper your expectations. Could he have a great game? Yes. The matchup, not necessarily the greatest for him, and he'll be sharing, and they haven't been running the ball well. Same with Darrell Henderson, though. So it's like, not going to pretend it's not a good opportunity. Jerry Jeudy or Isaiah McKenzie. I'm probably just want a piece of that Chiefs game and going to go McKenzie there. Jackson or Everett. Don't know which Jackson you're talking about. Should I trade Jacoby Myers for Dillon? Sure. I mean, I think that's, Jacoby Myers has been really good, right? But he also hasn't been really available. But when he's been available, he's been putting up, I think you want to say he's at the top 10 in points per game for wide receivers. He's a legitimate play. If you need help at running back, yes, and I think that's a fair trade. All right, everybody, thank you very much. See you next week, Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Bob Harris on the hot seat, right here on the YouTube channel. Jamie Calandro and Eric Romoff will be here tonight for the DFS lineup show, 9 p.m. Eastern time, and I'll run you through all the DFS stuff. If you want to watch that while you listen to me on the radio, I'm on SiriusXM NFL and Fantasy Sports Radio, 8 to 11 tonight with Mike Dempsey. Catch me tomorrow on the pregame show from 11 to 1 with Jeff Manns. Catch me on Football Diehards on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio for, let's see, Monday night 10, Thursday night 10, Friday night 10. You'd think I'd have that figured out by now. Deion Jackson or Everett. Deion Jackson there. All right, everybody. Go get your Deion Jacksons on. Have fun. Good luck this week. I'll talk to you next Wednesday, and I'll be back